not have bad. You killed my father. Like father, like son.
Welcome to the motherfucker. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would seem one of my favorite up-and-comers, Johanna Wonyou, is set to return to action this weekend on the island of Puerto Rico for what is a WBA International bantamweight title, opposite the ring veteran journeywoman Tania Walters of Canada. Would seem that Johanna Wonyou has moved down in weight, from super bantam down to bantam, where currently Shernika Johnson holds all the alphabet titles and Dina Thorsland is the Ring Magazine and lineal champion. Thus, every step forward Johanna Wonyou takes is a step in the direction of the winner of their fight, sporting a professional record of 12 wins with no losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts. Her boxing career has taken her all around the world. She's boxed in France. I believe that she's boxed in the United Kingdom and at least once in the United States, and now she's boxing on the island of Puerto Rico against a woman who looks a lot like Chris Mathias. Hard to know what to make of it. I don't know if it's because Chris looks like a woman or Tania looks like a man. In either event, there is a resemblance there. Sporting a professional record of 7 wins with 5 losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out. In 12 professional bouts, Tania is coming off of back-to-back losses to Shira Patricio earlier this year in April and Crystal Rosario in January. So she has been busy, but she has been losing. Previous years, she's also dropped decisions to the likes of Liana Cruz, Miyamoto, and Amanda Gaye. So in all likelihood, she's about to drop a decision to Johanna Wonyou this upcoming weekend, as Johanna is just as, if not more talented than those fighters are. I've often referred to her as one of the dark horses in the super bantamweight division, one of the best fighters you've never heard of, who is now promoted by Salida Promotions, the same promoter that promotes Clarissa Shields, Kay Scotch, now promotes Johanna, who was last in action in July of the previous year opposite the ring, Mary Romero, and that's the only fight that she had last year. In that way, the night of, it will have been a year's time in between Johanna's last fight and her next one, as she wasn't with a major promotional outfit that had a broadcast deal up until recently. Before that, she was keeping a nice, steady schedule of fights, but things sort of just slowed down for her last year. Now that she's with Dimitri Salida, I expect things to pick back up, as he does have a deal with DAZN. I expect her to win. Now, should we expect Clarissa Shields to also be in attendance? Because she is the first lady of Salida Promotions. It's the biggest name Dimitri Salida has under contract, but she seems to spend more time trying to get into MVP shows than being in attendance for Salidas. Why spend so much time trying to get into shows for a promotion that you claim has disrespected you? A promotion that you say you don't like. You spend more time trying to get into MVP shows than you do Salidas. Maybe now that MVP has banned her from being in attendance, she can spend a bit more time supporting her Salida Promotions stablemates instead of clout-chasing MVP's fighters. Back over to Johanna, who is one of my favorite unbeaten up-and-comers. There's a legitimate argument that she might have had a better shot at winning a belt if she would have stayed at Super Bantam than moving down to Bantam, because the reset button has just been hit at Super Bantam. Ellie Scottney became undisputed champion and has now made the decision to move up. Thus, all those titles are about to go vacant and they're up for grabs. Whereas at Bantam, you've got to go through the fire to win a belt there. It's tantamount to making a conscious decision to do things the hard way. As much as I like Johanna Wonyou, she would be in for a hard fight with either Dina Thorsland or Shernika Johnson, as both fighters, both 2-weight world champions, are a lot more experienced than she is. Johanna is only 12-0. There is a lot more work needs doing, but she is fighting in a WBA eliminator of sorts for a lesser WBA title. Thus, every step forward she takes in this division is in the direction of either Dina or Shernika. I expect her to win this weekend, and we'll see what else the year holds for her. Men's welterweight news. You might have heard Rolly Romero versus Teofimo Lopez is now set for the T-Mobile Arena August 22nd. Rolly Romero and Teofimo, a pair of two-weight world champions in their prime, will receive their due attention when they square off in their summer WBA welterweight title bout. An official connected to the fight confirmed to Boxing Scene Monday that Romero vs. Lopez will be staged August 22nd at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. The bout is expected to be a joint pay-per-view on both Prime Video and DAZN.
DAZN? Why?
Because of their ultimate tier. The continued effort to spruce it up and make it appealing to consumers on the premise that by subscribing, they save you money, when in reality, they're just finding different ways to charge you more money.
For Las Vegas's Romero, 17-2 with 13 knockouts, the card represents his first title defense at a major venue after he captured the belt by defeating Brian Garcia in the main event of the May 2025 Times Square card in New York that featured Lopez outpointing Arnold Barboza. Romero, 30, previously lost his first 140-pound title defense to Mexico's Isaac Pitbull Cruz. In the March 2024 co-main event, the Tim Zuz Jr. middleweight title defense defeat to Sebastian Fundora. New York's 28-year-old Lopez, 22-2 with 13 knockouts, has headlined 5 title fights at New York's MSG, most recently losing his WBO 140-pound belt to 4-weight world champion Shakur Stevenson by UD this past January. This will be Lopez's second fight of this year.
Rolly Romero's first. Reactions to the fight are lukewarm. It was Joe Habib, friend of the channel, who said another $75 fight that most people will be illegally streaming in the United States. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This is not how you grow the sport in America. This fight should be on TNT.
So then why isn't it?
Because of the fighter's financial demands. Because of what Rolly's gonna want to fight Tio and what Tio's gonna want to fight Rolly. Because nobody wants to crack the whip.
Nobody wants to tell these guys, you need to get real. You're not worth the money that you're asking for.
Some sort of a phenomena in the American boxing space where people keep pretending that Rolly's online persona translates into dollars in the real world when it doesn't. He's not a box office draw. He's not a big ticket seller.
He shouldn't be on pay-per-view.
The guy hasn't fought in a year, so what kind of momentum do you expect him to have? And Tio, it's even worse with him because he just fought on pay-per-view and lost.
So you get him another title shot and you put him back on pay-per-view?
You may as well be rewarding him for losing the Shakur Stevenson fight. He should have to build himself back up. This should not be a pay-per-view.
If you're gonna do it. If you're gonna give Teofimo Lopez a title shot at a new weight that he doesn't deserve, it shouldn't cost us extra.
By all rights, Rolly shouldn't even have that title because I've seen not one but 2 mandatory challengers come and go, not get their crack at the apple while he sits on his hands, doing whatever he wants because the alphabet organizations let him.
Remember that this guy hasn't fought in over a year, and remember that Shakram Giyasov was his mandatory, but the fight never got ordered. Giyasov loses to Catterall, and the fight still doesn't get ordered. How is Teofimo, who's done absolutely nothing as a welterweight, getting a shot at a welterweight title before Jack?
Blame the WBA, it's their fault.
Blame boxing as an industry. And why are we supposed to pay extra to see this? A fighter who hasn't fought in over a year versus a fighter who's coming off a loss and looked terrible in his last fight. See,
You know the way it's supposed to go.
the way it's supposed to happen, the pot for this fight with Rolly and Tio shouldn't be more than $3 million, maybe less.
What are the operational costs to do the fight between them?
That way you wouldn't have to bill it as a pay-per-view.
Shouldn't be more than a $3 million fight. It should be part of your DAZN subscription and simultaneously featured on TNT to enhance its exposure. You shouldn't have to pay anything extra for this one. And if that dollar amount doesn't satisfy the fighters,
If Rolly doesn't like it, order Rolly to fight as mandatory and see how much he likes that.
threaten to strip him of his WBA title, which is the only thing of value he has.
Hold his feet to the fire and see how much he likes it.
This overpriced fight that no one was asking for is a direct byproduct of the people in boxing not doing their jobs. Because if the WBA would have told Rolly, you've got to fight Jack Catterall next, it's either you do what they say or you drop the belt. And the Catterall fight, that wouldn't have been a pay-per-view.
So you don't like this fight with Lopez?
It's not that I don't like the fight, it's that I don't like it being a pay-per-view.
This whole thing with this DAZN Ultimate tier is an exercise in futility because you're not saving anybody money by doing more pay-per-views on your platform. You must think people are stupid.
You tell people that if they subscribe to the Ultimate Tier, they save money.
They're saving you money.
By charging you more money, because the more pay-per-views they decide to do, the more money they get from you. And if the only way you get to save is to subscribe to the Ultimate Tier, that's still more money they get from you.
Approximately 2 times what an annual DAZN subscription costs, which is north of $400. That's a bit much for a niche sport.
It's getting ridiculous, and it's not sustainable by any means. I don't imagine there are many Ultimate Tier subscribers in the United States. I'd be shocked if they've even got 100,000 people in America subscribed to this tier, because it's ridiculous.
That Rolly could have sat out for over a year without having to satisfy a mandatory.
That's a sign of the people in boxing not doing their job. That's a sign of the alphabet organization he's a champion with not performing the most essential function.
You're just gonna let him hold that title hostage. Let him have his pick of the litter on the premise that you think this fight will make more money.
It's not even a bad fight, but pay-per-view wise, these ain't pay-per-view guys.
Period.
As far as the fight itself, I'm leaning towards Teofimo to win it, to lift that WBA title from Rolly, on the premise that Rolly's never been all that talented. He's never been all that good a boxer.
Well, he did beat Ryan.
Yeah, he did, but remember what the circumstances were. Ryan hadn't fought in a year, and he was off the sauce, off the juice. That's the version of Ryan that Rolly beat.
That isn't saying much.
Rolly isn't actually any good. I don't think he ever was. And to top it all off, he's got ring rust to shake off the night of. It will have been well over a year's time from Rolly's last fight, whereas Teofimo at least boxed earlier this year against Shakur, and even though he lost, he still at least fought.
Rolly doesn't present the style that gives Teofimo problems. Rolly's not a pure boxer. He's not a sugarfoot fighter, circling away, staying behind a jab. That's not his bag.
The most that Rolly has going for him is that he's a little bit bigger than Teofimo, and he's got some strength. But I like Teofimo to win this one.
I think he's a little faster on his feet than Rolly, more athletic, quicker to the draw.
Performs really well against aggressive, come-forward fighters, which a lot of the time Rolly is, and he's competed at a higher level than Rolly.
I like Teofimo to win. I do think it matters who's at the helm of the promotion. This looks to be a PBC show. Rolly is the PBC fighter,
but I'm still leaning towards Teofimo to win this one.
We'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. In men's light heavyweight news, the WBO has officially ordered Dimitri Bivol versus Callum Smith with a July 26th date to agree to terms. The WBO has ordered the ring and unified light heavyweight champion to begin negotiations with interim belt holder Callum Smith. His mandatory and number 1 contender, President Gustavo Olivieri, is giving both sides just 20 days to agree to terms.
Why so little?
The WBO World Championships Committee has officially ordered the commencement of negotiations for the WBO Light Heavyweight Championship between WBO World Champion Dimitri Bivol and interim champion Callum Smith. Consistent with the WBO regulations and our long-standing one-champion policy, the purpose of this mandatory championship contest is to discharge the mandatory title defense obligation and terminate the interim champion status. The parties have 20 days to reach terms. Per-spit proceedings may be ordered if failed.
Do you think this is about compliance with the Muhammad Ali Revival Act?
Well, it could be, but the act hasn't actually passed yet. Per the Revival Act, they want to limit alphabet organizations to having just one reigning champion per division,
and not the army of secondary champions we've seen over the years. If Bivol faces Smith next, that will be back-to-back fights where he was forced into a mandatory. In late May, the Russian ended a near 18-month layoff by scoring a wide points win against Michael Eifert, his IBF mandatory. Soon after, Bivol stated that he wanted a third fight against former undisputed champion Artur Beterbiev. The two are tied at 1 apiece. Additionally, Dimitri named WBC light heavyweight champion David Benavidez as another fighter he would like to take on, regardless of what Bivol wants to do next. If he wants to hold on to his brown belt, he has no choice but to fight Smith. The former super middleweight champion has been inactive lately. He handed Joshua Buatsi his first defeat last year to win the WBO interim title. He was originally set to take on David Morrell in April, with the winner becoming the mandatory for Bivol, but a rib injury during training camp forced Smith out of the fight.
Now he's getting a straight shot at Dimitri Bivol. A few passing thoughts.
To say that Dimitri Bivol was left with little choice but to fight Callum Smith is a bit rich, because if worst comes to worst, you drop the brown belt, fight Artur for a third time, beat him, then circle back for Callum.
Kinda like what Usyk did with Daniel Dubois and the IBF title. He dropped it, Daniel picked it up, then Usyk circled back and won it back. Dimitri could have did that with Callum. He could have did that with the brown belt. I think a rematch with Artur takes precedent over any mandatory.
I'd like to think I've been very level-headed with Dimitri Bivol. I've given him grace, but at this point, I can't deny that he's ducking Artur Beterbiev, that at this point, he is aging him out, and he would prefer not to have that fight, because that fight pays more than a Callum Smith fight. The Russians are set to pay through the nose, so long as Dimitri's willing to play ball.
But he's not. He'd rather fight Callum. And the excuse is supposed to be that Callum is his mandatory, but like I said,
you can do what Usyk did, you just don't want to. Now, Callum Smith has been out of action a long while, so I don't give him any odds to win this fight. Under normal circumstances, even if Callum had been fighting and he had been winning, I still think that Dimitri is too cerebral for him. Too crafty.
he wins the decision.
And that's under normal circumstances. Under extenuating circumstances like these, where Callum hasn't fought in over a year, I don't give him any kind of odds against Dimitri, and you better look out.
They're probably gonna bill this as a pay-per-view, you know.
It seems like the running theme at DAZN is any halfway decent fight, any solid fight they make, they want to put behind a paywall. They've just added Zoo vs. Spence to their catalog. They're set to add Romero vs. Lopez, so that it's not far-fetched that Bivol vs. Smith might also be billed as a pay-per-view. I remember some months ago somebody asked, are there even 12 fights in boxing?
12 pay-per-views.
12 fights that are pay-per-view worthy, and it would seem that we have our answer. No, there aren't, but when you set the bar low,
You can bill almost anything as a pay-per-view these days.
they're not using any discernment at DAZN. Maybe you could get away with billing this as a pay-per-view for the Brits, since they pay less overall for boxing than we do anyway, but here in America, nobody's clamoring for Dimitri Bivol to fight Callum Smith, as neither fighter is all that big a draw here, so to put a fight like this, potentially, behind a paywall.
It's fucking retarded.
But they're so desperate to spruce up that ultimate tier, you can't rule it out. They might decide to make this a pay-per-view.
Afterwards, can we expect Dimitri Bivol to revisit that Artur Beterbiev fight after this? Will he fight Artur then?
There's no guarantees, and he still has a third alphabet title to where another mandatory might be called after this.
After which, Artur might say fuck it and retire.
After which, Artur might decide to move on, maybe move up to cruiserweight. You never know.